I don't know what's being painted around me.
Some of this magic came to life in unexpected ways. There was the swaddled light, multiple partially built creature heads, a CGI wand, and Eddie Redmayne riding a giant puppet rig underwater. We're about to uncover all the magic CGI brings to the world of fantastic beasts.
I've worked with these amazing puppeteers, like some of the guys who worked on Warhorse and...
Number 1. They may be small, but they are feisty, especially that Niffler.
He remains one of Newt's favourite creatures and also the bane of his life.
Both Niffler and the Bowtruckles were inspired by real animals. Niffler, a cross between a honey badger, platypus, and mole, while Bowtruckles brought serious praying mantis and stickbug vibes. Niffler was built from the skeleton up to ensure the most realistic anatomical movements. Before any CG work even started, a physical model was constructed over multiple months for the VFX team to work from. As for the Bowtruckle, well, that was many months of consistent work that saw a whopping 200 concept art versions made before settling on the one we see in the movie. Number 2. A creature straight out of Greek mythology.
It's full of wonder.
In fact, this Zouwu is named after the creature that inspired it as well. To start, an animation artist built the form, blending cat-like visuals and lizard-like movements, and going so far as to see how the creature moved in the style of a Chinese dragon in a parade. When it came time to film, a green man with a marker for where the ferocious head was meant to be filled in until VFX could bring the magic. By the end of the process, the team had spent a full year figuring out how to capture and produce this shot from start to finish. Number 3. The Kelpie wasn't underwater, but Redmayne sure was. Just because the creature didn't exist didn't mean Redmayne was going to be let off the hook when it came to riding a Kelpie through the water. The Newt actor was very inexperienced when it came to actually being underwater, so he was taught how to hold his breath for extended periods of time by a free diver. Once he was ready, he dove into the deep end of the green-colored water tank. Literally. But that's not all. A full puppet rig was set up for the actor to ride underwater, ensuring a smooth transition when the CG was applied and the Kelpie animation was brought to life.
You bite Bunty again, and there'll be trouble, mister.
Number 4. How many people does it take to make one Nagini?
And then they have pure spectacle.
A lot more than you'd expect. And one of the key people behind the Wicked transformation? A contortionist. The idea behind Nagini's tantalizing takeover was to have the snake engulf the woman, so the team enlisted a contortionist to act out the transformation based on the pre-visual animation. This allowed them to capture a more realistic human movement. Another contortionist performed for the cameras, but in costume, literally bending over backwards and somehow managing to put her head through her leg. No wonder the process took place over 14 months just to nail this one detail.
She will be forever trapped in the body of a snake.
Number 5. A mating ritual never to be forgotten. While the Erumpent really is the star of this scene, it was Eddie Redmayne who did most of the work, filming himself doing his part of the mating ritual to share with David Yates until they found just the right one. Meanwhile, the Erumpent was getting designed digitally in order for the puppet makers to construct an 18-foot tall, 22-foot long puppet that was operated by 4 puppeteers. The production filmed this scene until the CG team had enough visual reference to work with. As for that ice, Redmayne really was sliding into the scene, on such a precariously slippery surface that the actor had to be hooked up to a harness to make sure he didn't fall.
Good show, Mr. Kowalski.
Number 6. Terrifying on screen, a bit less so behind the scenes. The terror Tina faced on screen wasn't so intense, fortunately. While the particularly threatening details were CG, much of the set was practically built, including a moving platform set up for Catherine Waterston to get across to safety oh so safely. The gap was real, but it was one these actors could totally handle. Number 7. Where better for a creature to hide than inside a suitcase? Before we saw just how much that small carry-on could hold, we caught a glimpse of this animation, and of course, this creature that emerged from it. That Murtlap is freakishly realistic looking, and its stand-in on set did the trick as well, even without the tentacles. Number 8. How can fake food look this good? This isn't just any strudel. It happens to be one of the trickiest things to animate in the entire Fantastic Beasts franchise. From intricate shading and animated texturing to special custom effects, this dessert was a true work of art. To make sure it was as authentic as possible, the team figured out how each of the parts would actually look moving through the air to come together. The goal was to make it look real, and they definitely achieved it. It's hard to believe we couldn't sink our teeth into that dessert. Number 9. This home can take care of itself. The deconstruction of Jacob's apartment saw loads of individually animated moving pieces. While at first the team hoped to achieve the desired effect by playing the animation backwards, it didn't look quite right. So they made use of a program called Houdini. This simulated each individual element that was being included in the image. Involved in this was everything from railing to shelves that straighten themselves out to laundry that hangs itself to stairs and bricks that lay themselves down. Since the reconstruction was still a construction scene, multiple layers of dust and debris completed the image like magic. Number 10. When he woke up, he chose chaos. Okay, so it would be super cool if Ezra Miller could actually transform into this, even though it does do some serious damage. The Credence actor was at the center of all the action, physicalizing the transformation expertly for the cameras, in a practical set filled with chaos itself, from pre-built rubble, fallen pillars, and of course, a blue screen so the CG transformation could bring even more magic. And chaos. Number 11. You gotta work with what you've got. Even if what you've got doesn't even come close to the creatures we end up seeing on screen. While we wish Thunderbirds were real, this puppet and Human in Blacks do a solid job for what we've got. Though we gotta give it to the CG team. It is far more majestic in the final cut. And of course, the stand-in Marmite, also known as the Swaddled Light. Redmayne made sure to hold that bundle tenderly as he would a magical young Marmite. Number 12. It's Goblin time. To achieve this kind of realistic animation in the physicality and facial movements, the actor who the Goblin was based off of, Ron Perlman, spent a ton of time doing mocap work to create the physicality. Wanting to bring his expression and facial details to the character, Perlman got very up close and personal with 98 different cameras set up to capture each detail of his face. This way, a 3D model could be created and worked off of for the animation team. Oh, the glamour of the Goblin life. Number 13. Whose wand isn't real? The answer is Dumbledore's. That's right. The wand that Jude Law holds throughout most of the Crimes of Grindelwald was CG, because the actual wand that had been designed for him and was used throughout filming looked too similar to the Elder Wand. Since they had already wrapped filming, the team had to get creative.
So they then had to CGI out that wand for quite a substantial amount of the film.
Number 14. How many layers does it take to make a sky? Depends what kind of weather you're dealing with, and when it comes to torrential and chaotic downpours, well, there are a few extra steps. You've got one for general color tone, one for rain, one for lightning and clouds, and even more layers to get the shadows, light, and atmosphere just right. And when people whip through the sky, the CG jumps in to bring convincing animation all around them. Number 15. What's the easiest way to get to old-timey New York? Well, other than time traveling, it's CGI. A basic set was made, while loads of puppeteers were in charge of animating the creatures on set. Oh, and there were some practical vehicles taking quite a beating as well. The landscapes and skylines we see throughout the movies were created from the ground up, but on a computer, replicating each detail of the New York skyline, including buildings at scale. Throw in some lights, moody fog, color, and some vehicles and carriages moving through the city, and you are set. This world of magic is full of special effects and images like we've never imagined. And with such convincing CGI, it's easy to forget it's all a world of fiction. Which creature in the series is your favorite?